I'm CraigO, and join me on my adventures with CraigO's cryptocurrency as we cover the blockchain, Web3, NFT, and cryptocurrency technologies. Interviewing the best in the industry, giving tips and tricks, and also sharing with you projects that I'm most excited about.
You're watching CraigO's Crypto Corner. You're watching CraigO's Crypto Corner, the best in Web3, blockchain, NFT, and cryptocurrency. Great reviews, incredible interviews, and some of the best things as well in all of Web3. Today, I've got a really cool guest on. He is a current student at Bryant University. His focus is finance and law. I want to welcome my good friend, my Web3 friend as well, Mr. Shawn Antonson. How are you?
Craig, not too bad. How's everything going with yourself and the team?
Good, my friend. We're live today, and we're going to be really focusing on really two, I think, really important things. One is your Doodles project, right? A blue chip NFT, and we're going to go over all the reasons why it's very exciting, especially right now in this bear market, as people who are heavily invested are licking their wounds and figuring out their next move. And there are more people who are staying in the space and going through figuring out what their next moves are going to be. But first, right now, I want to talk about the centralized exchanges. And I've mentioned this before. Are all centralized exchanges created equally? My short answer is no. How about you?
So, if they're all created equally, I would have to say I agree with you, no, because, for example, what we dealt with Selcius as well as, Coinbase, it kind of shows that there's a little bit of a tug between each of the two. So I'm with you on that. There's no equality in centralized.
Yeah. And, obviously, let's talk a little bit about Voyager and Selcius. Let's go there because I think it's extremely important, right? So Voyager is an app that I've had, and we'll talk about where I was vested into that. And, Selcius about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and today's date is obviously, it's the 7th of July. It's not obvious. You don't know unless I tell you. But this is live. So for those who are tuning in right now, it's the 7th of July. But Selcius stopped their withdrawal program, and that created a great concern. And Voyager, about a week or a week and a half after, said, wait, we were doing $25,000 withdrawals, now only $15,000. And if the writing wasn't on the wall at that point, I was like, well, okay, as soon as Selcius started to do this, and we started to see the plummet of a lot of these different cryptos, some of them mean shit coins and others actually have validity in the space long term and are a native token like Ethereum or Elrond, one of my very favorites. That something was going to give, and that I think that big give was Voyager was going to follow in the same thing. And why? Because they have liquidity pools and yield farming. So I guess my question to you is, you have cryptos, correct?
Yes.
All right. And so did you use either one, Selcius or Voyager? Were you a client of either one?
I was not a client, unfortunately, but now, thankfully.
Now, thankfully. Okay. Tell me why now, thankfully. I want to hear that because I think that's a really good spin.
So now, thankfully, because, nothing against Selcius and the Voyager network, but when I look for kind of where I'm keeping my assets, I try to look to a place that has protection on the back end. And that was kind of where I always felt I was more secured with Coinbase One, because they offered that $1 million asset protection. As unfortunately with Voyager and Selcius, it's a little bit more off chain, as at any point they can pull your money off, even if you had money just sitting in USD, like you mentioned. So that's why I kind of stick with more of Coinbase, because of the services that they offer on the security side.
And the higher fees. A little boring right now is good. We need a little bit of regulation. I'm not against it. But, people, when liquidity dries up, the ability to honor your customer's transaction, withdrawal request, it's not present. So to me, that's as simple as that. And when you're playing in those apps, you have to understand there's a little bit of risk. And I've always been a bigger fan of liquidity, as far as having diversification, right? So if I can't access liquidity as easily, I'm probably not going to put all of my tokens there. I actually had more in Coinbase, and Coinbase, I feel, is a lot safer. Doesn't mean that this can't happen. Anything can happen. I mean, did we expect right now to find ourselves in recession? Some would say so. Others would say not. Our work environments are changing. So Without funds, it is impossible for exchanges to stay afloat. These lower tiered exchanges like Voyager and Selcius made their profits from loaning out monies to other firms like Three Arrow Capital. Tell me a little bit about Three Arrow Capital, what you know about them.
So with Three Arrow Capital, not much. I kind of try to stay into the space more, the Web3 side, and from a coin standpoint, like focused on Coinbase and Binance.
And by the way, the reason I asked you that question, I didn't expect that you would. But again, nobody really knows, right? It's a firm that borrows the money and then does other things with the money. So right, making money off of the money. And I want people to hear that. That's the biggest part. We knew that, right? So there's $650 million that is owed to Voyager, and then there are all these like different shareholders. So the plot thickens always. Behind the scenes, there are the people that are making the money. What I thought was interesting is that this caused a certain amount of concern for Voyager and Selcius and users alike, right? Because when Voyager promised higher yields and returns on the crypto being staked on their platforms, this was the honey they needed to get people into their metaphorical pot. And whereas with Coinbase, they would charge these higher fees up front and upon conversion with crypto within the crypto asset. So for me, I can say to people, go on to Coinbase, start learning, start figuring out how to set your account. Just start to learn those things. And again, as we always say on every episode, it's not financial advice. Consult with your financial advisor. But for those of you that don't know, yield farming is the process of using decentralized finance to maximize returns. And that's exactly what they were doing with Three Arrow Capital. Users lend and borrow the crypto on the DeFi platform and earn the cryptocurrency in return for those services. And the yield farmers who want to increase their yield output can employ more complex tactics. And that gets beyond the common conversation. What you want to know is that if you're going to put your crypto to work in Web3, that you're investing in stuff that has long-term building momentum. You hear a word like utility. You want to get into something for the artwork. Well, that's great. On the token side of NFTs, do they reduce the risk? And more than likely, we won't see this type of event for some time. But it's not unlikely that this won't happen again if Voyager gets their stuff together. Were you surprised by Selcius and Voyager when you started to see the market start to go down?
I wasn't surprised at all. The reason being is that money was tied into a liquidity pool. And, what you and I see on the side of Web3 with liquidity pools, at any given moment, that liquidity pool can go under. And at the end of the day, Selcius and Voyager are a business. They have, bills need to be met, people need to be paid. Yeah. And they had to kind of lock the network in order to make sure that their company could stay afloat.
Yeah. No, I agree. And, when this started to happen with Selcius, I had some Solana tokens on my Coinbase. And I knew even at the time that it's a much more solid company. I believe Binance.us is probably the biggest. Again, I don't have the specific numbers on it. But I instantaneously, put my cold wallet. I connected my Solana over to my Ledger Nano X. And again, that's definitely a learning curve. And that brings us, we're going to do a screen share. So Tony, just letting you know to cue that in for our audience. I'm just pulling it up right now. And there we go. So one of the things that I always talk about, Shawn, and I want to hear where you do your learning from, is that it's really important that as much information as my podcast will give, and there will be other great podcasts as well, starting to learn from your end is going to be really important, because the learning curve in Web3 and learning about how the blockchain works and functions and the differences between cryptos and NFTs are extremely important. The next level, as you're learning up into there, is getting a cold wallet. And as you see on the Ledger Academy, I just wanted to point out on the right-hand side, that Start Learning tab, there is such great information. It actually explains the difference between a private and public key. So Shawn, for you, and you can take that off the screen share as well, Tony. For you, where do you do your learning from?
So, Craig, I do my learning, whether it's from a Ledger standpoint and security. I try to look more into Discord groups, kind of look into other different areas, such as YouTube and such as amazing podcasts as this one. And then from a Web3 standpoint, Twitter has been my best friend. Also Reddit kind of has some little groups in there that give kind of advice. But, staying, in time and making sure everybody in groups and Discords and collaboration. I mean, I think we spend hours at a time, every day going back and forth about this. So just peer-to-peer, Discords, Twitter, Facebooks, Reddits,
Yeah.
the whole social media outlets.
And I think you're an explosive amount of information, especially when it comes to Doodles, and we're going to dive in that in a few minutes. But I'm a VGX holder, and I think what's interesting is people go, "Okay, Craig, you created your own podcast. You're doing it alongside of my good friend Adam Hirsch, and we've got some other people behind the scenes as well that have really helped to make this what it actually is." But Craig, tell me about your story. Do you have any pain? And well, I do, and maybe you'll share yours after this. Maybe you'll one-up me. I don't know. But I am a VGX holder, and as I watch Selcius start to go down, VGX, for those of you that don't know, is the native token of the Voyager app. They had really good money that they were giving back. So every month I was rewarded a certain number of tokens for holding. Again, that's part of that yield farming that we talked about before. So I'm a holder. Let me tell you about my position. I have 2,469 coins. I have a current market value of $583. And since it probably has dropped, my cost average is $3.77. Right now, the actual coin price is 23 cents. So my pain is close to $9,000. Am I upset? No. Listen, there's certain risks that I'm going to take, and there's certain rewards that I'll have. And as my podcast channel grows, I hope maybe I'll take some really cool risks so that my viewers won't have to. Again, that comes along with subscriptions, subscribers, and also sponsorships as well. And sponsorships, most importantly, that I believe in. Now, Tony, in a second, we're going to go to a screen share. But for you, Shawn, can you one-up that story?
So I can actually one-up that story in the Web3 space. I invested probably close to about 12 Ethereum throughout projects, and that value of Ethereum is now probably down close to, I would say, 15,000 in USD. So it's a tough market. It's a bear market for sure.
What was it when it was the Ethereum? So introduce do fiat for people.
So fiat for people, sorry. So we had it was probably 36,000 down to 15. So probably about we're a little bit. Let's not talk about it on air.
I get it, my friend. So we're going to actually go onto the Voyager platform. I want to read something, and I want to tell you how I'm feeling about this now that you guys know that, $10,000 of my money's locked up. And I know people in spots where I'm just a cup of coffee. I know a few of them, and they were taking some big chances. And it seemed at the time a very fiscally conservative, financial way to move. Not responsible, but it seemed to me like of all the things you could do, that was the most lame way to be. And I'll say lame, not in the lame sense, but just of not, taking these big risks. So here, let's look at Steve Ulrich. Okay, so Voyager today, we began a voluntary financial restructuring process to protect assets on the platform, maximize value of its stakeholders, especially customers, and they emerge stronger as a stronger company. Voyager will continue to operate throughout. So here's my first thought. Again, this is to you, Steve. I respect you. One of the reasons I got so heavily involved in the VGX token is because when he spoke and he got on videos and interviews, I would hear him all throughout last year. And I was so excited. I was like, this guy's a leader. And I always talk a lot about our podcast, especially when we talk about Doodles, that projects are docs, that there's a level of visibility. I haven't seen not one video, and I'm not angry. I haven't seen not one video from Steve coming out and making that contact, because if I'm not connecting with you, and you don't feel I'm coming off as authentic, and you can't see that I'm doing my due diligence, then I've lost you as a viewer. And then you chalk me up to being fake or someone that's a pretender. Or if I have a project which will be eventually sponsoring me, and I don't believe in that project, and I'm not vested in that project, and I don't come on to say, hey, I made this in error, or hey, this was a good call, this is what I think is going to happen, not financial advice, and I will be giving out those along the way, because I do believe very strongly, after doing all the reading we did in Doodles, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But I have a really big problem, Shawn, when you as the leader, you as the CEO of the company, doesn't come out and make a video statement meeting your audience in the face. I think that, Steve, is incredibly important. Shawn, what do you think?
I think as a leader and somebody that is the main image of your company, I think you need to come forward. I think it's time to, apologize, own up to what happened, but then also kind of give some relief, and not in the form of, currency or fiat or anything along those lines, but just make your investors feel that they can trust the product that they invested in for the long haul and that they don't need to sell right now because of panic.
I have 4 things, Shawn. You one of those 4 things are for Voyager? And since you don't have the money and I have the money, I had to think about this. Like, okay, how do I feel that I would, as soon as the account opens up, and I don't just throw that money right into my bank account. I don't transfer out of the crypto, take a loss, write it off in my taxes, and then throw it back into my bank account. What do you think do you want me to tell you what those 4 things are?
Let's hear the 4 things.
All right. So Voyager, here's the 4 things that I think you could do. And I'm curious to our community because we're going to post this on Twitter. So I'll make it quick. Revamp their customer loyalty program. Create the excitement. And that comes by the 4th, which I'll give you in a second. Another one is an off-spin of directly your VGX token, or it can be interconnected, is that we need a commitment token. And that token is only unlocked 3 to 4 years after that holder didn't exit a certain amount of liquidity, right? So we keep those investors in there. And I think a commitment token, and I don't know if there's such a thing, but I'm throwing it, it's a commitment. I'm willing to keep my money here, but I'm going to get rewarded 3-4 years from now with that. All right. So that's number 2. Number 3, keeping withdrawal amounts low. Now, I know the audience is not going to love to hear that, but as soon as those gates open up, there's a lot of FOMO money, and there's also a lot of people that need money. So you might not like number 3, and I'm okay with that. Number 4, I know you all agree with me. We need a video from Steve Ulrich coming to us, connecting, sharing a level of empathy and concern for everybody's circumstance who invested in him and the platform, but in him. And I think that's extremely important. What do you think on those 4, Shawn?
Craig, I think you hit all 4. And I think the biggest one being that we need to hear from Steve. I think the time is now. The time is now that he needs to make do for what happened and make his investors feel more secure. And I think that security comes, like you mentioned, that commitment coin. Amazing idea. Amazing.
Yeah. So I want to throw this out, and this we don't have as a screen share, but what I want to do is I want to talk about Coinbase is a cryptocurrency, the trading investment platform. We just talked about why it's the high fees for buying and selling crypto, but why right now I think a lot of people can feel fairly comfortable. Not all the way, I always go, normally I'm like, I'm 99.9% sure. I'm going to go, I'm 90% sure you're good. 10%, anything can happen. So it offers users the ability to buy, sell, and exchange over 100 tradable cryptocurrencies. Currently, they have 98 million users worldwide, and they have $256 billion in assets on the platform. So they're a juggernaut. And I just really quickly, I want to read about, what is Selcius? Selcius, and again, like Voyager, they're a low-fee exchange, right? Because that's the advantage. But the disadvantage is competitive rates on crypto-backed loans and invested accounts or interest accounts. So again, they're taking your money and playing with it a lot more so than maybe a Coinbase. I also want to read this PDF I pulled up. So Coinbase 1 beta, and you might be able to talk to this, right? And get a head nod from you? Okay, good. So 0 trading fees. Take your portfolio to the next level with no trading fees. Dedicated 24/7 phone support. Speak directly with a Coinbase 1 beta team member for help with any of your issues. $1 million account protection. All right, I love that one. Keep your peace of mind knowing your account is protected from unauthorized access. So I guess maybe they mean specifically that. Pre-filled form, an 8949 generated pre-filled form for Coinbase taxes. So they're getting you prepared. So there are no surprises so long as you do your due diligence. And premium staking rewards, earn a higher percentage for staked assets. So a level of protection, a great level of communication, and 0 trading fees. Obviously, that comes along at some cost. Do you know about Coinbase 1 beta?
Yes, I do. I've been in the beta phase for a little bit over 2 months now. Huge fan of it. The way I compare it to is the FDIC with banks, that transparency that you get from banks where your money's protected. I feel that same transparency from Coinbase. This is something that, like you touched upon, the $1 million account protection. That's great because if any assets such as NFTs or crypto are stolen, that you can get that back. For instance, we saw a lot of Bored Ape members. They lost a lot of projects over OpenSea. If they had Coinbase 1 here in their Coinbase wallet, this would be a great thing to protect that NFT. And another big part that you hit on that I really liked was the pre-filled form 8949. Reason being is when tax time comes along with crypto, it gets a little tricky, especially when you do over 30 transactions a month. So Coinbase is really stepping it up. And I think this is what is allowing them to become the leader in the industry.
And by the way, the government is going to be well prepared for the next bull run. And there will be a bull run. When? I don't know. It will happen again. Everything is cyclical to the market. And right now, obviously, we've got a lot going on in other areas as well. So Voyager filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. I saw this yesterday and wanted to add this to my show notes. I don't know that that's a show feeling for me. But this is part of the restructuring process. As I know, there are two types. I'm sure there are more different ones, but you have Chapter 7, which is completely death of the business, dissolving of all assets, and protecting yourself from debt collectors. Whereas Chapter 11 allows them to restructure. And I'll remind you, Hertz Rent-A-Car, they actually came out of the restructuring and they came out better than ever. I saw that on a podcast the other day, so I don't remember who that individual is, but I'll shout them out because that's their bit of information that I'm sharing. And if they come across my video, they'll be like, hey, I mentioned that. You did, and thank you. And if you reach out to me, I'll at least be able to give you a shout out on our next podcast. The situation is not bleak. It is dire. And now we get to the most exciting part of our conversation today, which is the Doodles NFT collection. So, Shawn, what is the Doodles NFT collection? Let's get our audience prepared for this.
The Doodles NFT collection is one of the most leading, I would say, bar setters in the Web3 ecosystem. It is, all from community oriented to blue chip quality, which we'll talk about later. Their marketing team, their partnerships, their NFT NYC exposure. It is the mecca of projects alongside Yuga Labs' Bored Ape Yacht Club.
And we'll get to those surprises in a second. I think what's happening right now in the bear market is when you can create a loud voice and you have incredible artwork, which we will show and share on the show after they're going to edit some of these clips. But one of the things that I think is absolutely most incredible is that when you have a leadership team, some big announcements, which we'll share, but more importantly, you draw that attention. What happens when brands, products, and services in the real world, not the metaverse, ladies and gentlemen, want to tie themselves to a very successful NFT project that rewards each of its holders for having that particular digital asset, such as Doodles? That's what's going to happen. And then obviously they're going to enter into the movie space and music related things. So in short, instead of launching an additional collection, right? So Doodles has three different types of collections, but instead of introducing and launching a new a collection, what they decided to do was complement their original collection. This allowed the Doodles team to implement a mechanism that allowed the Doodles owners to swap their NFT for a new spaceship themed one. These spaceship themed NFTs live in a different collection on the Ethereum blockchain as a way of distinguishing them from the original. And just in simple language, guys, it's basically what I would say smart contract programming. You launch one NFT collection, you then put into that original NFT collection almost like your commands or directions as you're getting ready to then bring the next collection. Talk to me a little bit about the mechanism that they implemented, and I believe you have the third part of that collection, right?
Yes. So the third part of that collection where they implemented is they started with their original project, which was Doodles. From Doodles, they branched into, like you mentioned, Space Doodles. With Space Doodles, they had another part of the Doodle project. Let me pull this one up. It was, you had Doodles, Space Doodles, and then now we're looking into transitioning into Doodles 2. In order to get over to Doodles 2, you're going to need what's called the duplicator, which we will go into a little bit more in this video. Yep. And then also you need the Genesis box, which was a surprise box that was just recently auctioned last week. Right. So that is kind of the whole ecosystem.
And we'll talk about that auction system. But for what I want people to understand, especially the new beginners, right, is that you got this digital asset, you got the Genesis, which is the original collection. You then got access or ability to get the second collection because you were a holder of the first collection or had first dibs on that. Not that they couldn't bring in new people. So that's the most important. Then they had this third collection, which you could get in. And if you went to NFT NYC week and you were a Doodles holder, you got a certain number of boxes. And I believe each box was about $123, if I'm correct.
Yes, correct.
All right. So that is one of the thing when people are hearing this, I'm like thinking, how are they doing that conceptual? So what I wanted to do before we dive any further is, Tony, I want to go back to a quick screen share, and I want to show the Doodles website, and I want to explain this to people so that they can understand. So if you notice on the right-hand side, connect your wallet. Now, I'm not going to connect my wallet, but obviously these are the three primary wallets. Wallet Connect, I believe, is Trust Wallet, or you can also connect maybe your Ledger, Coinbase Wallet, and then the MetaMask. So that's one thing that I want people to see. The other thing is right here where it says Documents. You can click on here, and you can go through a lot of the information. You can find out about the traits, the rarity, terms of service. It also probably provides in here your roadmap. It'll show you smart contract addresses in here. So that obviously is through Etherscan as well. So you can cut and paste those. You can learn about Doodles minting, OpenSea collection, snapshot. You can really go through and if this is probably one of the biggest things, and we can take that off a screen share, Tony. One of the biggest things that I want to say to people is, it's a real tip. Go onto the website. Don't go onto OpenSea. Don't connect a wallet. Start to learn right now. If you don't have an NFT, this is your time to really dig down and learn, right? Let's talk about this board of directors. All right. We've got Alexius Ohanian and we've got Caitlin Cruz. And I actually got a great tweet. We'll go back to a screen share in a second. Tell me about that board of directors and why that has you so excited, Shawn.
The board of directors has me so excited. So this announcement came during NFT NYC, which was a great kind of marketing technique by the team. Alexis Ohanian has just incredible years of experience within this space in crypto. And Caitlin Cruz coming over and joining the team, you know, the tweet that you're going to mention kind of shows she speaks for herself. Just incredible knowledge. And then we're saving one more who joined the team. We'll mention him in a little bit, but fantastic gentleman as well. And I think having a board of directors that's surrounded by these three, you know, high IQ individuals in EI, it's absolutely, you know, we're in for something very special.
It's short of incredible. And by the way, Alexius Ohanian was the co-founder of Reddit, right? So name drop. So if that doesn't catch your interest, newbies, I don't know what does. And by the way, it's okay to be a newbie. It's not that long ago I was, and I'm finding myself starting to catch up on some of my favorite podcasters, which is really cool. I'm still at a distance because there are some amazing people in this space. To shout out to them. The other thing with Alexius Ohanian, he's also married to a tennis legend, Serena Williams. They have a beautiful daughter, and he's actually working on a collection separately with his amazing wife. So I also do want to go into right now Caitlin Cruz, and I want to show that tweet because I think it's a really great one. All right. So here we go. The tweet is this: the better we get at assessing our relationships, the better investors we become. The better investors we become, the more resources we have to thrive. Let's focus on outcomes. I absolutely love that because for me, the most brilliant tweets, some of which are by my favorite artist, Mr. Hi-Rez himself, Hog Homie's collection, shout out to him. But I love when a tweet is very simple, but yet very powerful. I don't need all the engagements, retweets, likes, and shares. But when I get to see something like that, that draws me in, right? So you've got connections, you've got a powerful team, you've got the leadership board with some of the most successful people in the space. And I would gladly tell you to connect on to Caitlin Holloway's page and check her out, her Twitter page, because a lot of great things that are going on in the Web3 ethos happens via Twitter and Discord. I used to ask the very simple question, Shawn, and I won't ask it of you. What do you prefer, Twitter or Discord? I prefer them both now. And I used to just be Twitter. You knew I was fighting that off because we connected last November on a project, which I won't continue to name, but had a really cool roadmap. But that roadmap now in this bear market needs to correct, ladies and gentlemen, needs to connect directly to products and services. If you have an NFT collection that does not connect and I decide to ape into that project, it's because there's a certain amount of paper hands mindset that I have. And I'm a diamond mind, diamond hands holder. What say you, Shawn?
Craig, I like to, do my own research. And from there, find something that sticks to me. And if it's a brand and something I see that's upcoming, I like to take the risk.
This is the Wild West, and it's a forefront.
Wild West.
What's to come. And as you said, you invested over $30,000 and your portfolio is about a 50% bubble bath.
Oof, yes.
But that's okay, because here's the thing. We take that deep breath And what we realize at the same time is the future of digital assets, blockchain integration on our Web3 internet is going to be extremely powerful. And these Web3 brands are going to be the cool kids on the block that products and services will tie themselves to the right communities. And those communities are extremely important. So Doodles launched in October of 2021 and has since gone on to become one of the most valuable NFT collections. And we're going to do a quick dive in as well in a second into the Dune analytics, in which I'll let you go over directly. I'll ask you some questions on what do you think of their production rate. But to date, the Doodles collection has generated nearly $500 million in volume. So, Shawn, who is the big person that they brought in, the big kahuna, the big whale that they brought into Doodles that everybody should be excited? Aside is from Alexius Ohanian, who's on the board as the Reddit co-founder. Who has you more excited than him?
Tony, cue the "cause I'm happy." But the man who joined the team is Pharrell Williams, the man himself, an incredible businessman, as well as an amazing musician. He is joining the team as chief brand officer. His experience and years in the multiple industries will blossom over into the Doodles music project. This will allow, Doodles to start to move over into production of animation and film with his oversight. And then from there, his artistic talent, he's going to allow people to come in the space such as Lil Baby, such as Drake, such as Post Malone. There's just such big names that are going to come in from the music aspect of Doodles.
Yep. And it's like other collection. There are celebrity driven collections we've decided today. There are certain topics I want to go on my podcast and discuss, but when there's a certain amount of FUD on a project that is powerful, I want to give it time to iron itself out. And then maybe I will address those types of projects. But again, there's much respect in the space. And I think we have the delineation between ownership of a digital asset and the founder intention or message within that digital asset. So I will leave it there. But again, we'll always come back tied directly to a product or service. And, film, TV, overseeing these product launches with a spin of his artistic talent. Who better to do it? Right? Who better to do it than Pharrell Williams?
Pharrell Williams.
Neptunes, man. With these steps, right? So Doodles will enter the next chapter, right? With Doodles 2, right? Let's talk about the dynamic NFT, right? So this allows you to change the look as often as you want. Yes. So you got the third part of that collection. Imagine that we're speaking to somebody that knows nothing about it. Break it down in its simplest form, what you got.
So what I got is Doodles is looking to expand their community as well as project into tens of millions of new members. So what they're thinking is that with Doodles 2, this is a doodle for everyone. In order to be a part of the Doodle 2 family, what you'll need is a duplicator, which this will pull the traits from the original doodles, the OG traits per se. And those OG traits will come into your Doodle 2. The next part of this Doodle 2 ecosystem is what they call the Genesis box. Now, what the Genesis box is going to do in simpler terms is think of apparel. It's apparel for your doodles. But the thing is when you open that apparel, you're not going to be able to go back into that Genesis box again. So it's a true one of one. This is going to allow new members to come in. The ecosystem is going to get brought into, a whole realm of things, especially with Alexis, Caitlin, and Pharrell. So that's kind of where they're heading with this new ecosystem kind of phase.
I love it. And by the way, Tony, if we can go back to a quick screen share, because you brought up a word, right? And sometimes people get caught on the word and then they won't hear the rest, is I want to talk about traits really quickly. All right. Yes. So this is the Doodles collection. This is the OG Genesis collection. As you can see, this right here is the bottom floor of this collection, and I'll show that in a second. But these properties, where it says properties, those are the traits. So what we always look for is what's its rarest trait. And we're on OpenSea right now, which is the market trading platform for purchasing and selling your NFTs, one of many. I will leave it there, and maybe we'll go into a deep dive on another. But I'm going to click on the purple puffballs. All right, here we go. So those that have this trait, you can see where the floor is. So right now, this is the bottom one. The next one with the lowest, with that specific trait goes to 14 ETH, goes to 17 ETH, and up and up and up. Then we can look at traded volume, which Dune Analytics will provide in. All right, so now we're going to go away from that screen share. Come on back to me. And let's talk about the duplicator.
Yes. So the duplicator, this was recently probably put out within the past 3 months. The duplicator, like I just mentioned, is going to kind of, if you saw in their video that they had on Twitter that was brought through, shown through NFT NYC, which was an amazing video. The duplicator is going to pull those traits that you just mentioned from that character, goes through a cylinder, and then comes out on the other end into your doodles too. The other amazing thing that the team keeps expressing is that there's perpetual utility within this duplicator, which means that it's not just going to be used for the rarest OG traits. There's more that the team has in store, but that's why you're going to have to tune in for some more to find out.
Right. And we come back to NFT NYC week when you were a Doodle OG holder, you could walk into the event and there is a verification app so you don't have to pull up your wallet. I think it's sometimes not a smart idea. Not good at all, actually. And it becomes more widespread. Can you imagine someone running off with your phone? You've got it open to your favorite crypto and like that gone. So let me just pull this up. So part of utility, as I mentioned, product and service, but also IRL, in real life events. For those that had certain NFT collections and some of these collections, like I did the Knights of Degen event, that was amazing. I'm a holder of that. I also did the Spoiled Banana Society. So what did that give me? It gave me access. It gave me access to be able to hang around the owners, hang around other collective holders, see what their mindset is around crypto and digital assets, and where are they feeling right now. So it gave a lot of real experience, made some new connections through that. But what was really cool with the Doodles holders, so this bucket auction, which was the last one, the Genesis box that you got, it consisted of 24,000 total supply of these Genesis box. Additionally, out of that 24,000 supply, 4,000 of these Genesis box were reserved for the IRL event at NFT NYC, and for the price of $123. So if you held one, it gave you an opportunity to hold another. And by the way, what's the floor on that Genesis box?
So the floor currently on that Genesis box is 0.4 ETH. So
$500.
Yeah, I would say right around 500.
So I just want to share this. If you got 3 or 4 boxes for $123, and each of those boxes is selling for $500, that is a great return. Not only are you going to NFT NYC, maybe you got a handful of these boxes, you sell off some. You've got some keeping already because you keep that token into that project. You made back your money and you got profit. I'm sorry. I'm a fan of that project. Now, mind you had to be at NFT NYC.
Yes.
The community had to believe enough to invest, right? Because they have investors that invest in this project. Please don't think that it's just you buying into a project with 1,000 other people. Oh, whoa. I pulled the mic. With 1,000 other people that were going to allow you to get to that place. But to me, it's the investors, it's people coming together, collaborative effort. And if you can have a real event in person and be able to grab a handful of these boxes, pay for your trip into the city, free admittance where you're getting food and liquor, all you got to pay is a train fare if you're local. Sounds like a win to me, Shawn. What about you?
And on top of that, I mean, you had a concert brought to you by Coldplay. And I'm sorry, not Coldplay. That would be Bored Ape Yacht Club level. Chainsmokers. Yep. Chainsmokers performed at the Doodles NFT NYC event. There was guests such as Little Baby, who was in the Doodles shop. And they also was one of the first companies to partner with Shopify to bring Shopify into the Doodles headquarters, per se, in New York City, where they held the event. And you actually purchased this Genesis box through Shopify. So amazing technology kind of being brought from Web3 back over into Web2 and kind of merging them together. So really amazing what they did.
No, that's awesome. And what I want to do is I want to finish up with some stats before we wrap up. And I want to make the quick delineation. All right. You're going to talk about the Doodle bucket auction stats, and I'm going to talk about the overall generalized stats. So we're going to go with you right now. Doodle bucket stats. Give it to us.
Let's do it. So I'm going to just do a kind of a little brief thing on the Doodles bucket auction. It was held on June 29th at 7 p.m., concluded 24 hours later. And then after the 24 hours, the Doodles team was able to send off the Genesis boxes into the holders within an hour. The great thing about this auction bucket was that it allowed Doodle seekers to place their bids in the beginning. then it also allowed them to track the progress through the bid. And then if they had to, when the FOMO really started to kick in, they could increase that bid to make sure that they received the Genesis box. And after the clock struck 7 p.m. on Thursday, June 30th, is when the 24 hours passed by, the result was 6,528 total bidders, 4,446 successful bids went through, 11,975 Ethereum was spent during the entire auction. That is one of the stats that just kind of, send off light bulbs in my head, because just amazing to compare that to what happened with the other side disaster. This led to each Genesis box being 0.5 Ethereum. And then in total gas fees, which shows how well the smart contract was developed by the Doodles team, they only spent 23 Ethereum in gas fees throughout the 6,528 bidders. Incredible.
And by the way, in simple math, that 11,975 Ethereum is $14.3 million. And it's really awesome that you could be a part of it. And I know how excited you were. And sometimes I'll ape into things and I was like, but I don't have an OG Genesis. For me, I'm not a holder of it. But after reading the tweets, seeing who's involved, seeing what they're going to be doing with movies and cartoons and TV and music, I mean, it's unreal in the entertainment space, and it's going to attract, and it already has, some of the A-list celebrities. I think it's only going to attract more. So now I want to do a Dune Analytics. We're going to finish up on this, the Dune Analytics screen share. I believe I did that. Let me pull it up. There we go. And I want to read some interesting stats to you, some that I wrote down, and then we'll see if any of those have changed. Unique holders of overall collection of these 3 overall collections is 11,089 unique wallet holders. That means that the address is connected, and that counts as a holder. Owner of all 3 collections, 1,236 unique wallets. Traded volume in the past 7 days since that bucket auction, I believe, is 2,601 ETH. There are 3 collections total, and I would love you guys to look that up on Twitter or Discord. Doodles and Doodles Space. And then you also have the Duplicator as the second collection, and then the Genesis box, which you are now a holder of. So in short, what I'm hoping that you'll do, Shawn, is that we will continue to share this relevant information on this project, especially in this bear market. I want to say that it is an honor to have you on and to always brainstorm consistently with you. You've really helped in one major facet of my podcast journey and continue to do so. And the show is very grateful to you. Consider yourself a friend of the show, but you helped me to get prepared for some of these analytical conversations. So it was awesome to do a deep dive. Any amazing parting words on your end, my friend?
Craig, I just want to say thank you so much to yourself as well as the team for allowing me to come on to the show today. These past 6 months, building our friendship with you, between you and I has been absolutely incredible. Developing the analytical side of things, and then being able to bring this content over to this amazing podcast and being able to deep dive in the corner. It's been amazing. So I love to see where this is going, and I wish you the best in your journey, and I hope to be back on the show soon.
And you definitely will, because you are one of tomorrow's future leaders in the Web3 space, Mr. Shawn Antonson. It's been an honor.
Thank you so much, Craig. Have a good one, guys.
You too. All right, Shawn.